Okay, the another important section of the website is the footer. And similar to the header, everything is concentrated in just one file. It's the footer.php file. I'm gonna open it up and also look at a website so you can have a parallel here. The footer is the dark gray blue section. And as we can see, the first is a little div. Here's a footer bar. This is the stop bar with the copyright notes and the option to go back to the top of the website. And then we have a section for the actual content. As we're seeing here, I was just playing with it, so that's why it looked funny. Okay, and within the div class footer content, right, we have a new div class container here which will hold all the data, but what is important for you to know is this div class row and everything within it. The div class row, let's think the website as if it would be a table, and you can add rows, and the rows would have different heights, but the widths would be all the same, would be the screen width. And the website was actually designed to be fully responsive. In other words, it fully adapts to smartphones, tablets, desktops, and laptops, so virtually any screen resolution. And so all the rows will have the width of the screen resolution of the user, whereas the height can always change. This is one row and has like a limited height, whereas this is another row which is a lot larger. So it's a very simple. You only have to do div class row, and that is it. All right. Now let's look at the inside that row, and the row can be divided into columns, and this is one of the things I suggest you to study, the Bootstrap 3.0 grids, because this is gonna drive the development, the content placement of all the websites. In the footer, as we can see here, I divide into 3 sections of the same width. Right, there's 1/3 of the page here, 1/3 of the page here, and 1/3 of the page there. And so the entire row width is always considered to be 12. Or any column, you can subdivide that column, and the entire width of the column is also 12. So every time you're dividing the page, dividing a row, or dividing columns in sub-columns and so on, the entire width of that element would always be 12. So if you want to divide into 3 equal sections, you would want to use, actually, when you're doing the div, this is the key element, the call MD4. Column is just tells, right, that div works as a column. Text center is that I'm centering the text. If you don't need to center the text, you don't really need this text center. And the call MD4 is the key element for the grid views, or for the adjustments you're making to the columns. It's very important that you have a very good understanding of the Bootstrap 3 CSS, and you can find information here. Right, it's a very long list of things. As you can see, I'm scrolling down. It's a lot of information here, but you have to know this. You don't have to know everything. You don't have to memorize everything, but you definitely have to come here and look at all the options that you have, so you can place the content properly. So bookmark this, getbootstrap.com/CSS. This is one of the key tutorials that you'll be using. Let's look at some examples of the grid here, so I can explain how to properly separate the content, right? Divide the content, and explain what the call dash whatever it is dash the number means. And here, as an example, first on the website, we see that I use col-md-4, and so I'm thinking I divided the row into 3 columns of equal width, so that would be 3 columns of size 4. So I have the first one here, I have the second one MD4 the same, and I have the third one. Can you do different numbers? Absolutely. You can do a 6 here, you can do a 2 there, right? But never, the sum can never exceed 12, right? So 4, 4, and 4, they're equal. If I would want to divide just 2 to 2, I would be 6 and 6. If I'm dividing in 4 columns, then I would use 3. If I would want to divide in 6 columns, I would do call MD2. And they don't have to be all the same width. I could do 6, 4, and 2, 6, 3, and 3. That is totally up to you, as long as the sum of the numbers adds up to 12. And the middle section here, the call will be always the same, call dash. Now this is the part that changes, and the number I just explained and the two letters here, they relate to the device. And as we can see here, it's another interesting link for to bookmark, and I already shared that with you. Those two letters, they correspond to phones, right? Smartphones. So XS, SM for tablets, MD for desktops, and LG for large desktops, large resolutions. And so you can set your website so that, okay, if it's a standard desktop resolution, I wanted the column to be called MD4. So you're setting up here, okay, it's a median, right? Desktops with 4. But if you want to, maybe for cell phones, right, you would want it to behave as a size 6. So you would do call XS6. I would suggest that you use only one width for now until you get really familiar with it. You can read, right, the description here. So if you're planning to use, as it says here, the same width for all the devices, you only need to specify one of them, right? You don't have to specify for all of them. So I would just suggest you to use MD-4 for now, and in the future, if you want to be more specific, then you can start adding more options. As you can see here, there's like 3 different options, right? And so this is, you can always play with it. This one actually has even more options. So this is all the CSS, but let's keep it simple. What I would say is, if you want to divide a row into, let's say, 2 columns, what you would actually want to do, let's just do it here as an example. Let's just create a separate row. So let's create one new row here, and then there will be the class row. And within the class row, we're gonna create 2 columns. Let's just do a column, call MD6, and I don't care about the text. The text will be left aligned, so I don't have to put the text dash center. But if you want to put the text alignment, you could do center, you could do text right. There's a many different CSS instructions here to change the text. But let's keep it simple. So I would create 2 of these, and within the divs, so let's say I'm gonna just put a header, header 1 there, and X, and then I'll do header 2 and Y, and let's save this, and let's go to the page. And we'll see that, well, you don't see because it's the text is on the same color as the background, but if I go back there to NetBeans, and let's just change that text to white. Let me see if I have a font text instruction. I think I have a font white here, so let's say that I will do font white in both of them. And when I go back to the website, see, okay, the font didn't work here, which is okay, and it did not work because the header is actually overriding the instruction. But if I do font white here, then you see that happening. Actually, this is interesting that it happens, so I can explain you why. So let's say you have a CSS class on the div, and then you have an element inside the div, and then you apply something to the div but it doesn't apply to the element, that is because the element has already a pre-built, right, the CSS definition that overrides what you wrote in the div. So every time you create a tag, so let's say I have an h1 here and I create a link, right, an a tag within this h. So if I write anything, for example class here, and I do font blue, and then the test now would actually get the color blue instead of the white from the header. So the closest CSS property will be always applied, right? So in this case, let's just remove this and then do X, and just do the same for the H1 here. Just leave as H2. So we see the H1 here and H2, two columns, right? So let's say that if now I would want to create 6 divs, and let's just copy and paste, and let's make them all the same first. Call MD2, call MD2, and 2 and 2. Let me see if I have 6. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yes, I do. Perfect. So when I do that, so now we see the six columns. Let's now say that I want it to not be that uneven, and I'm gonna do just a 6 here, and 2, 2, and 2, and let's just remove those. And now you see that, one div is taking half of the screen and the other half is being split into 3. So you got the idea. This is a key thing to know. You will never be able to place content properly unless you get this grids right. So let's just remove that, get back to our original footer, looking nicely, and then within here I'll just draw attention to some elements. See, for example, here we have images pointing to outside, so the source, right, you just copy and paste, it actually comes from PayPal. And there's not much to be seen here, I believe, except for regular HTML CSS content. So this is the footer, and the next video I'm gonna start addressing the pages.